On today's show, tag along on this year's bass season opener on Mille Lacs. We'll be sharing a boat with a well-known fishing pro and an even better-known fishing partner.
Every man and woman for himself.
Next, ever wonder how DNR finds and counts fish?
Walleye dinner.
To find out, we tagged along on the Minnesota River. Later, it's one of those jobs that everybody would like, a professional outdoor photographer. But what's it really like, and what's it take? We'll find out. And it may be a little plain brown bird, but these feathered friends are known for their beautiful song in the summer. Those stories and more, next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Raven and I welcome you to the show. You know, if you follow fishing issues in Minnesota, you've already heard about the walleye crisis on Mille Lacs. But that doesn't mean there isn't some good fishing on the lake. So some time ago, Governor Dayton decided to promote the great smallmouth fishing on Mille Lacs. And guess what he caught?
Mille Lacs, an inland sea in the heart of Minnesota. It's always been famous for walleyes.
You know, we still have great walleye fishing.
But there's another big fish story to tell here.
We have this even more impressive bass fishery. You know, we're a top 10 in the world bass fishery. People come from all over the country to fish smallmouth bass here.
Did the walleyes disappear in Mille Lacs? No. But in recent years, co-management of the walleye fishery between DNR and tribal leaders has been immersed in controversy, to the point anglers this year are prohibited by DNR from keeping even one walleye. That may explain why this fella is here.
Every man and woman for himself.
On opening day of the 2017 bass season, Governor Mark Dayton came to Mille Lacs to bring attention to the lake's fishing opportunities beyond walleye.
You know, actually, this was my idea. So I thought, yeah, wow, you know, the walleye situation is stressed here, but they got fabulous bass fishing, and so let's promote that.
To spotlight the lake's fishing opportunities, the governor chose Minnesota's top bassin' man, Seth Feider. A short but fast bass boat ride later, Seth pulled up to one of his bass hotspots. And then we began drifting with black marabou jigs for lures. Seth set the hook, and the TV cameras rolled. A nice walleye, although Seth was expecting a smallmouth.
I do get to fish lakes all over the country, and this is by far my favorite lake to fish. I think it's the best smallmouth lake in the country, and I liked it so much I actually moved up here.
Keep in mind, fish don't always jump into the boat.
Could be embarrassing. You're up here to promote the great smallmouth bass fishing, we can't catch one.
There's one.
Hopefully it's a bass, not a walleye.
He's fighting like a smallmouth.
Hey!
Hey! This is what we're talking about. Look at that.
Truth is, the smallmouth game was seldom played 20 years ago until a Minnesota angler, Tony Capra, made news with a Mille Lacs bass 2 ounces shy of the state's 8-pound record.
But in the last 10 years, the population has absolutely exploded exponentially. It's huge right now.
The bass boom on Mille Lacs also surprised DNR fisheries experts.
Back in the 80s, early mid-80s, we never saw bass. So, I mean, they might have been here and they might have been in such low numbers that we never picked any up.
So what changed?
Our best explanation is that the longer growing seasons we've been having and the warmer weather is favoring the survivability of young bass.
Do bass and walleyes get along?
We don't have any evidence from our direct work that smallmouth bass are causing a problem with other species in the lake.
That didn't take long.
No.
Will Mille Lacs anglers someday have the best of both worlds, bass and walleyes? Governor Dayton hopes so.
And I'm going to insist they do everything they possibly can to bring the walleye population back to this lake.
Yes, it was a day to promote bass, but some fishing trips have surprise endings. Seth, the bassin man, only caught walleyes. And the Gov?
Yay!
His catch also turned out to be a walleye, a dandy 5-pounder. The moral of the story? No matter what bites, happiness is simply fishing Mille Lacs. Coming up, get ready to count some fish. Well, lots of fish.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Minnesota Select GMC Dealers, Jesse Treble's Safe Basements of Minnesota, Evinrude, the official outboard motor of Minnesota Bound, and by Kinetico.
Welcome back. Ever wonder how DNR decides how many fish there are in our lakes and rivers? Well, they do surveys. And they did a survey on the Minnesota River not too long ago, and we tagged along. Travis Frank has the story.
Dirty jobs can happen in pretty places. On the bank of the Minnesota River, DNR biologist Tony Sint and his crew dress for a day of work. Their job comes with a warning.
Now I won't get electrocuted.
In a river as clear as mud,
Alrighty.
we set out to get a view at life lurking below.
We're doing one of our 16 fixed index abiotic integrity electrofishing surveys.
In simple terms, we are going to shock this river.
Yeah, we're shocking it. We're gonna shock up a lot of fish, most likely.
More than 70 different species of fish swim here. We hope to see them all.
We have 16 fixed sites on the river that we do every year.
Each site gets a grade to help determine the overall health of this river.
Fish reflect more than just the fish. They reflect the habitat and the food sources and the bugs and the smaller fish.
It's about to get serious, huh?
Travis is gonna act as an intern for the day.
You guys pay hourly, or how does this work?
Usually just in the satisfaction of handling cool fish.
Satisfaction comes in seconds. 290 volts bring fish to the top.
And that electrical current basically impacts the fish's muscles and stuns them. Most of them will be immobilized and float upwards, allowing us a split-second chance to net them.
Walleye dinner!
For the record, all these fish swim away unharmed.
In any given run, we can catch hundreds of fish, and in any given run, we can catch up to 20 or 30 species of fish.
Back on shore, biologists measure,
Smallmouth buffalo, 580.
weigh,
3250.
and document every fish.
A lot of fish, a lot of different fish. It's cool to see.
Lizard shad, 244 for drum.
That is a cool looking fish. Minnows don't stand a chance on those yappers.
Recording this data will help to protect these fish for generations to come.
624.
And that's why we're out here measuring the fish population on a regular basis, so that we can potentially identify any declines before they become too major.
Grow to record proportions.
In a changing landscape on a changing river, questions are easy to find.
Everything that occurs on the land impacts the river.
Chemical runoff and invasive species pose a threat to fish big and small.
So far, we've got spot fin shiners, a lot of emerald shiners, gizzard shad. There's a lot that we don't know and a lot that we want to know.
Today, the grade scores high.
that's a fish of a lifetime for somebody.
Overall, the river is extremely diverse with fish species. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of different sizes. It's a good sign.
Tony believes his view into this muddy river will give anglers everywhere hope for decades to come.
That is the king of the river right there, huh? Fish of a lifetime for somebody.
I really enjoy promoting and protecting this resource.
My goodness, that is amazing fish right there. Guys, I think this river is pretty healthy.
Yeah, a big great blue heron. I thought maybe we can get a shot of it.
A day in the life of an outdoor photographer. The subject, Mother Nature. That's next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Border View Lodge.
While it's true we all think we're great photographers, you know, with our smartphones and such, what is life like for a real photographer, say a wildlife photographer? What's it like to make a living? What do they have to do? Our own videographer, Josh Bryant, decided to tag along and find out.
So this is a chrysalis of a monarch butterfly. The adult butterfly is just about to emerge, and what I'm doing is I'm photographing it now and having it all set up, waiting for it to split open and have the monarch crawl out. And so it's a waiting game now. You can see the wings and the veining inside the chrysalis, but I have to adjust the flash to get a little less glare on there. My name is Stan Tequila. So I'm a naturalist, author, and a wildlife photographer. I'm also the director of the Starring Lake Outdoor Center in Eden Prairie. I started here about 28 years ago. We're a full-time, year-round kind of environmental education center. So the building was originally built in 1935, so it's an older building, but it's been restored a number of times and it's in pretty darn good shape. And this is where we do all of our environmental education classes. We also have a variety of small little animals that live here. They're educational animals that are kind of ambassadors to help educate the public about animals in general. Some people say that these southern flying squirrels, they're more common than our eastern gray squirrel. Most people have these squirrels in their yards, they just don't realize it. It's really been my goal, kind of dedicated my entire career to educating people about wildlife. And so I started as an environmental educator and wanted to educate people, but found that I really couldn't find either the drawings. I tried to draw for a while and really didn't have enough skill to do that. And there wasn't enough, I mean, nearly 30 years ago, there wasn't enough photos out there for what I needed to do, so I picked up a camera. What I do is I produce books that educate the public about wildlife. And a big great blue heron, I thought maybe we can get a shot of it, but he kind of took off into the woods. He was right up there and went over, just past the blind to the lakeside over there. A lot of my photography is utilitarian. So, for example, I've done mammal field guides, which covers all the mammals of a specific state. That means I had to go to those places, find those animals, photograph them. Just about everything in nature is interesting, and so therefore everything I photograph is like the most coolest thing ever. You know, we were just photographing the monarch caterpillar coming out of its chrysalis, and that to me is just absolutely amazing. My main goal would be to capture behaviors, natural behaviors. This is why I use the longest lenses made, and those long lenses allow me to stand further away from the subject, not influence what they're doing. Yeah, when I look back over the 28 or so years since my first book came out, I don't really think much about it because I'm so actively working right now. I'm hoping to get to a point someday where I feel where I can sit down and look back and go, wow, look at that.
Next up, a story on a favorite little bird of mine. A hint, most of us have them in our own backyards. If you look close enough, well, just listen.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Ellsworth Cooperative Creamery, Minnesota Rebath, and by Totem Resorts.
Up next, one of my favorite stories about one of my favorite birds, the musical wren. Oh, what a magical time it is when wrens invade your backyard.
She's talking to me now. But I can't see him, I can just hear him. The sound of that good music.
It's music sung by a feathered flute. The house wren, a summer sound in Minnesota as common as thunder, and pretty loud too, for a bird that weighs about as much as 2 quarters. But nobody enjoys the wren's repertoire any more than 79-year-old Raymond Schweiss.
It's kind of nice to sit down if you got time and watch how these birds operate.
Indeed, wrens will burst into song as often as 10 times a minute.
I like their noise, like you can tell they're singing away now, and they're talking to me maybe for some reason that I'm too close to them or something. I like being around them because it's when they feel good, I feel good.
Amazingly, the joy of wrens is known throughout the Western Hemisphere, from Canada to Chile. And Minnesota's wrens, like many Minnesotans, go south for the winter, but return in springtime.
When they come, then I get busy.
For more than 2 decades, Ray has built wren houses.
45, 50 maybe.
Houses of every style.
It's an apple, and the wren has got a nest in there. I didn't think that they'd go in there because being it was red, I thought maybe they'd fly by, but I tell you, didn't take them long, and they started making a nest there in no time. That's my favorite over here.
In fact, the bird's penchant for using man-made nest sites is how the house wren got its name.
This is it. The hole is, I'm twisting it now, if you can see that. Here the wren just come out. He was in his nest.
Male wren sometimes claims several houses, but used only the one preferred by its mate. Of course, as summer wanes, the wren's time in Minnesota comes to an end, after raising 1 or 2 families in those little houses.
Makes me feel good that they realize that I made them a nest and they're talking to me back.
By early autumn, our backyards are silent once more. Next spring, when the wrens return to Ray's backyard, something will have changed. Ray won't be there. A few weeks after we filmed this story, Ray passed away. He was 79.
Ah, the beautiful wren, right? You could say our musical wildlife, right? Speaking of wild, here's your invitation to join our Minnesota Bound crew for the Wild on the Water fishing contest at Izades Resort, featuring lots of wild players. The Beach Bash starts at noon. Details on mnbound.com. That about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. I'm Ron Scher. The star of the show, now the hockey player, is Raven.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.